This is VolcaKnowledge, the podcast where we explore how volcanoes interact across nature, culture, and society. I'm your host, volcanologist Sam Mitchell, and every episode I'll be joined by a new guest to get their unique perspective on the world of volcanoes and geology through the eyes of art, history, media, education, industry, and so much more. If you're watching, thanks for watching. If you're listening, thanks for listening. Remember, you can catch all of our episodes on many streaming platforms. Let's go and meet our guest. Enjoy the episode. Doing fieldwork is essential to geology and earth science, and even more so the tools that we actually use to conduct fieldwork. One of the tools that a lot of geologists will be familiar with in starting off is some form of compass, or in this case, a Brunton compass. So it's fantastic today to be joined by the owner and CEO of Brunton themselves, Lauren Heerschap, who's here to talk to us all about geological field tools and so much more. And also a special shout out to Brunton for actually being one of the sponsors for this podcast. So thank you, and hi, Lauren.
Hi.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
No problem at all. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
I absolutely love geological field tools. It's something that got me into this. And when I was looking around at starting a field degree, the first thing I jumped to was, oh, look at all these things I can use in the field.
Nice. Yes, lots of shiny gadgets.
Exactly. I think, the first day we arrived in our degree, everybody just had like a little tote bag that just had a collection of things. I think the hammer we had was very, very basic, but everybody was gifted this hammer. So it's always a special moment when you get given your first hammer or field tool.
Yes, agreed.
So before we kind of kickstart everything, talking about Brunton and field tools themselves, let's start off with a favorite geological or volcanic place that you've been to.
Ooh, yeah. So this one was a no-brainer. I grew up in Los Alamos, New Mexico, which is right on the edge of the Valles Caldera. So from age 9 on, just every day seeing these beautiful layers of tuff that had erupted from the Valles Caldera, getting to go into the caldera even before it was public. Just beautiful, beautiful scenery and fun rock at all scales. So that's definitely my favorite volcano.
That's nice. It's nice variety because most people have gone with a volcano they've seen erupting. So my usual contenders are usually like Iceland or Hawaii or say a Stromboli. So it's nice to hear someone talking about a nice volcanic field site.
Yes.
So the other one would then be somewhere you've always wanted to visit or see in person.
Yeah, I think it would be Mount Etna in Sicily. I've been to Italy and love the culture and the food, but can't imagine how cool it would be to combine all of that plus getting to visit a volcano and an active volcano in such a setting. So
yeah, and it's a big site as well. You know, I think some of the ones that people visit sometimes are a lot more smaller, a lot more contained, but there is so much at Etna because it's such a huge volcano.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to go at. Right, really good. Okay, I like those answers, and it's also reminded me to go to the Valles Caldera because I've not been there.
Yeah.
I've not made it there yet, but it's somewhere that's on my tick list for sure.
Cool.
So
cool. Well, call me. Come this way. I'll help give you a tour.
There we go. So you are joining us today from Wyoming, which is exactly where you are based with the company of Brunton. So it'd be great to hear a bit about how you've got to where you are today.
Yeah. I'll try not to take like hours to tell this story.
This is your chance for your memoirs.
Yes, outlining that. Well, yeah, like I said, growing up in New Mexico, not only having that scenery in front of me and all around me, but I started getting interested in collecting rocks and going to gem and mineral shows. And I think I got my first rock hammer when I was 10 from my dad. It was a birthday present. Like I still have that rock hammer. That'll come up in another story later, I think. But I think it's just always in my blood. I love being outside and grew up. I started rock climbing as a teenager, so that was also this like up close and personal with rocks, especially volcanic rocks.
Yeah.
I learned how to climb on the basalts of the Rio Grande Rift there next to.
That's hard stuff as well. That's sharp.
Yeah. It's kind of tricky. But yeah, it's just always been in my blood, I think. So when I went to college, I went to Wheaton College, which is in Illinois, little liberal arts school, like 3 hours away from actual outcrops of rock. um, but after taking a geology class my freshman year, I was pretty hooked. I really enjoyed the subject, and the professor kept like saying, "You should major in geology. You'd be a good geologist. You should major in geology." So I listened to him, and it was a good. He was a really good mentor, and still is, just in guiding different ways of thinking about the profession. Um, I didn't even have a career in mind. I just enjoyed
Yeah.
studying geology. Even when I went to grad school, I just enjoyed it. I didn't know what I was going to do
Yeah.
afterwards.
It's amazing how some of those intro professors sometimes can just have such a hold on you for the
Yeah,
rest of your
yeah,
career and lifetime. And I know several places I've been to, and everybody has said that they had the right people teaching their intro geology class because
yeah,
it converted either a lot of people who were maybe thinking about it or people who did a complete 180 from business and finance into
yeah.
a nerve science degree. So
Right,
a
right.
shout out to all the good intro geology mentors out there.
I know, totally. It makes a big difference. And we need more of that in high schools too, to help usher those students into college programs. Um, but yeah, I wasn't sure. I think it was field camp, my undergrad field camp in the Black Hills of South Dakota, and getting to see bits of Wyoming. Like we did a Western trip to the Tetons and Yellowstone. I think that's what really convinced me, like, I want to be a geologist. Um, and I wasn't sure what that meant, but I really enjoyed the field aspect of it.
I don't know what
It
it
was
is. I
like,
don't know what this is, but I want in.
I want to do this. And I do remember thinking, wow, like watching Jeff Greenberg, the mentor I was talking about, just get to be in the field with, a dozen students all summer. Like, what a dream job. I want to do that. Um, and so, yeah, pursued geology in grad school. I studied tectonic geomorphology and went to Taiwan to
Oh wow!
study active tectonics. It was right after the 1999 earthquake. So we were looking at how erosion and tectonics, you know, play together and affect each other in a really active setting like
Yeah,
that.
and what a place to go as well for your
Yeah,
grad school fieldwork.
yeah, yeah. It was I went to CU Boulder, and just my professor had that project, and that's really the main reason I chose CU Boulder. So
Yeah,
um, plus there's some climbing in Boulder. Uh, so yeah, I think a lot of my career has been, and I don't like to say this because again, it might sound like bad career advice to younger professionals listening, but like I've never had a grand plan. It's really been steps along the way, getting, tools in my toolkit,
yeah.
metaphorically and physically, and just learning skills that could take me to the next step and equip me for whatever that next step might be.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't
Yeah,
think it's a detriment at all. Something I say to a lot of, say, my students coming through undergraduate or their masters now is it's not necessarily about the context of what you're researching, but it's building that arsenal of field skills. Because
yeah,
a lot of the time people don't necessarily know what they want to go on to do as a career if it's not academic, because we still don't, within academia, we don't tell people enough what they can do outside of academia.
yeah,
And so I
yeah.
always
And
try,
you don't,
yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah,
was getting to focus
yeah.
on
I would,
those like field skills of like think about the analytical tools you've used and
yeah,
what you're actually doing in terms of like the scientific method and applying those
exactly.
elsewhere.
Yep, yep. Yeah, not everyone gets to become a field geologist, but those skills are what's important.
Yeah.
And I think it's also important to be well rounded. Like I also, it was the super early 2000s when I was in grad school, which makes me feel old. But GIS was also new-ish, and I took, there weren't GIS classes when I was in undergrad, at least not at a smaller school like Wheaton. But at CU Boulder, I took one GIS class to help, and then after that point, it was kind of self-taught. I used GIS in my master's work and finishing my map. It has become like the critical tool in every single job I've had since then.
Right.
Even here at Brunton, I still use GIS to do different types of mapping and analysis. Um, so that's another one. It's like that was part of a tool in my toolkit that became something that I never thought I would do a lot, but I even ended up teaching a lot of GIS. So it's like despite loving being in the field,
Yeah.
I've spent a lot of time sitting in front of a computer too.
Yeah, you can
So
you
yeah,
can have a
anyway,
bit of both.
yeah, most of us will have to. Um, so yeah, after grad school, I worked for the Colorado Geological Survey out of Denver, kind of taking that earthquake interest in tectonics and looking at earthquake hazards in Colorado, and loved it. But just by then had married my husband, and we wanted to get out of the big city feel of Boulder, Denver. So we moved to Durango and found jobs there. I did a year of oil and gas
Hmm.
for this like kind of an unconventional oil and gas firm, and also again like learned a lot even in that 1 year. That kind of is my industry experience, but it's provided an important perspective since then.
Yeah.
Um, then this job at Fort Lewis College opened up, and it was where I ended up for about 9 years. I started out as just the lab coordinator, buying stuff for the department, coordinating the labs, teaching some of the labs, then started to teach intro classes. Then I started to teach field methods, then field camp, and then GIS of all levels, and became basically just carved out this position and became a lecturer
Yeah.
instead of lab coordinator. And again, 9 total years. It was fabulous. It was pretty much that dream job of
Yeah.
like, I got to be the instructor in the field, like
Yeah.
hanging out with a dozen
And by
students.
the sounds of it, you got to teach all of the classes that you probably would have most loved to teach.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
getting out there and teaching geological field skills.
yeah, yeah. It was such a joy. And same with the intro class thing. Like, hopefully, I had some positive impact on those incoming students and swayed some of them to become geologists. Still, I'm friends with quite a few of those original
Yeah.
students, and so
I imagine
it's been pretty fun
I
to have
imagine you
that.
must have seen some of them coming through from, say, your intro geology, and then a couple of semesters or a year or two later, then in your like field camp field methods unit, which must be quite
Yep.
rewarding.
Yeah. Yeah. For a small department like that, you got to know those students really well,
Yeah.
all the geo majors. Um, so I loved that job. But then enters this part of how Brunton, like how we got involved with Brunton. um, about 5 years into that job, I was teaching field methods to sophomores. It's like an August class right around this time. Um, Sophomore field methods class that would then prepare them for using field methods in their other classes. And field camp was usually then between junior and senior
Yeah.
or after senior year. So field methods class, I had shown the students how to use a Brunton. We had done some indoor, like here's how to take strike and dip, here's how to take trend and plunge. But we went outside for this activity, and I remember the day because I wrote all this down in my field notebook. But I was sitting at a boulder, and this was at a bouldering area, but the students knew they weren't supposed to use the rock hammers. But it was a place where I knew the rocks really well from bouldering. And there were beautiful faces that were both planar, but they had slicken lines.
Mm.
So you could walk up to a surface and take strike and dip, but then also take trend and plunge. And I remember the moment of thinking, man, I wish these Bruntons could take this measurement, this strike and dip measurement, differently. Like holding up a spiral notebook against the plane. I remember like wishing that the Brunton could do that and take strike and dip simultaneously.
Yeah.
So I let the students go. They were doing their activity, and I sat at that boulder for a while, and I sketched out that idea. And I had never seen like a a Breithaupt or a Freiberger or even a Brunton Geo before. I thought all Bruntons were like the traditional conventional. I had never seen any of these other
Yeah.
models.
Yeah.
Like, oh, the hinge could have a dial on it with graduation, so it could measure dip. Um, and north could be parallel to the hinge, and then you could take, if the hinge could do this, um, you could take trend and plunge of that same, you could
All at
take trend
once.
and
Yeah.
plunge of. And so it took me down this whole route of like the hinge could even be hollow, like the spiral notebook. And I jotted all this down, got really excited. Like, I think I just came up with an idea. If I could make a Brunton do all this, it could take measurements in half the time because you have strike and dip just in one configuration, or dip and dip direction if you turn things around a little bit. Um, because I was so frustrated that students they just weren't like intuitively understanding what they were measuring.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you're holding up and balancing map boards and notebooks, and they weren't really seeing their measurement and able to explain it to me. Um, so my husband at the time was teaching at a high school, like a project-based high school in Durango, and he had taught himself AutoCAD and SolidWorks. And so he started to try to sketch up the idea a little bit, but then we got busy with that semester. And then Christmas break came along, and it was like, let's like that idea wouldn't leave me alone. Let's try to make a prototype. Let's try to actually make this idea physically. And so he said, okay, I'm going to have to buy a mill, and I can't make this out of wood. I need to buy a new tool for the garage. Um, so stepping back a little bit, our garage had become like this workshop because we had started this little science tools company, making and selling just online tools that we thought were useful, like things we used in our own classes. Like for me, it was Jacob staffs and field kits, map boards. For Dave, it was like water rocket launchers for physics classes that actually worked well and were robust. We made groundwater models that were like ant farms where you could put dye in and see how the water flowed underground. So all this stuff was going on in our garage. So we're like, yeah, we'll add one more tool and let's make this compass. So a few weeks later, we actually produced a prototype that did what we wanted it to. And I think in our recent flooding event, my prototype has left. Usually it's sitting behind me. I won't go searching for it.
Well, I can show the final product in a second.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, this prototype actually worked. It physically did what we were envisioning. So we started the patenting process to protect the idea. Took it to field camps that summer to test it. And it was like, yeah, students actually got it. They understood what they were doing, and were also able to take measurements faster. So we thought, okay, we either disrupt our entire lives and make this thing in our garage, or like start a company that makes this thing, like scaling this up, or we could just approach Brunton with it.
Yeah.
Like see if they like the idea. Maybe they'll make it as part of like, then they can get it out to the world.
Because Brunton had already been established for decades at that point.
Yeah. Oh yeah, over 100 years by then. And I had always used, I knew Brunton was in Riverton, Wyoming, but I couldn't figure out who to contact at Brunton. There was no like human way on their website, or I had no idea how to find them. So I wrote them a letter, like snail mail. I put a letter in the mail, like what they had for headquarters address, which at the time the management headquarters were in Boulder, Colorado. So I write them this snail mail explaining things, and weeks go by, and the VP of product writes back, or he emails back, because I had left modern forms of communication.
Oh, I was going to say you weren't waiting for the postman to come and deliver you your reply.
I opened up the opportunity for more modern means of communication. But yeah, he said, let's meet. And so we like that fall, this is 2014. Again, we went to Boulder because that's where the headquarters were. And we had this like Shark Tank moment where we got to like show off our idea, our prototype, to basically the leaders of Brunton at the time. Little did we realize none of them knew how to use a conventional Brunton for geology purposes. None of them were geologists. Even the engineer who had worked at Brunton for like 40 years had not ever used it in a geological context.
Wow.
So we had to show them how to use the conventional version, then compare how to use our prototype. We called it the plain sight at the time. So the entire day goes by, and we ended up with an arrangement to have a licensing deal. We licensed the patent. They said, okay, we'll start working on the Brunton version of it. And that's what became, I know you have one in front of you too.
There we go. Our matching kits.
That's what became the Brunton Axis. Yeah. And it does everything that I envisioned.
It's
Um,
brilliant.
so yeah. And then after that point, one thing really led to another. Like they didn't have a geologist on staff to help market or even launch this thing. So we got very involved in launching the Axis several years later in 2016. And then they didn't have a geologist to even like represent them at broader events like EGU or
Yeah.
AGU or GSA. So I started going just on my own, volunteering to go be in the booth while I was still teaching at Fort Lewis. And then
Well,
we decided, okay,
even those,
it's a little much.
yeah, because even those work just going to a booth at a conference. Because I came
Yeah,
by at the last AGU, and I was just kind of
yeah,
watching, and I must have seen at least a dozen people come by. And when you just have
yeah,
these out, all they've got to do is just have a play around and
yep,
mess around, and
yep,
before you know, they're interested
yeah,
in one.
yeah. That's the beauty of those events because yeah, getting to like fiddle with something hands-on
Yeah.
is very different from just watching a video. Um, so anyway, one thing led to another. We moved up to Wyoming to be closer to Brunton, here in the middle of Wyoming in Riverton. We moved to Lander, just down the street. Um, my husband got a job as kind of co-engineer or assistant engineer as Hank Iden's health started to fail. He was the engineer of 40 years here. Very, very smart man. Um, so then I started to say, okay, look, you guys should hire me. You need a geologist on staff. Hire me as the sales manager. And at that point, right before I got hired, and sorry, this is a very long story.
It's
Please stop
no,
me if
it's
you're
good.
like,
It's
this
good.
is, but we're getting
Yeah,
there.
it's taking us where we need to go.
So this was during COVID. We were all working at home. The facility here kept working because we do government contract work, and so the factory kept going. But during COVID, we were all working at home, and I wasn't an employee of Brunton yet. I was just freelancing, doing a variety of things. Um, I overheard a conversation, and I guess to backtrack, Brunton used to have headquarters in North America in Boulder, but it was actually owned by a Swedish
Hmm.
parent company that owned other outdoor brands like Primus stoves, Fjallraven, um, Royal Robbins clothing, and some like European retail outlets. So ownership in Sweden was still like Dave's direct supervisor was the CEO of Brunton at the time. And so he would have to meet with him early in the morning because it was Sweden.
Yep.
Um, and so I overheard this early morning meeting, and the Swedish CEO of Brunton was like, "What would you and Lauren think of the opportunity to maybe buy Brunton, just out of the blue?" Like he said, the owner would be willing to sell the brand to the right people,
Hmm.
and I think that you guys are the right people. And out of his goodwill, he really helped broker that deal over the next year. Because I think, in all honesty, Brunton was at risk of perhaps getting bought by another company or another entity that might have moved manufacturing to China. That's been attempted multiple times,
Yeah.
and it's been an effort to keep it here. Um, I think a lot was in jeopardy for Brunton, even perhaps its entire existence. And he realized that and really cared enough about the brand to get it into the right hands before that could happen. So here we are, two former teachers, like uh, not a surprise that we didn't have a bunch of money laying around to be like, sure, we'll buy this 130-year-old brand. Um, so all said and done, the Swedish leadership, they were very generous in like a seller finance deal that is still not done, but it made it possible with some help of family to have two educators buy this brand. We kept everyone here, like no one lost their job over the
Amazing.
transition. The other brands stayed down in Colorado and Sweden. The production staff here, everyone was not only willing to stay on, they were really psyched
Yeah.
to have it back in local hands again. So yeah, that's the super long life story that led to owning Brunton.
But there you go. It just goes to show also the tenacity and perseverance from you're writing a letter to them becoming the
Right,
owner and CEO
right.
of the company.
Yep.
That really is coming full circle. So now then, I guess in terms of Brunton itself, there's a whole range. It's not just the compasses, but there's a massive amount that you
Right.
actually produce.
Yeah.
That different kind,
Yeah.
not just geological field tools, but also other forms of field tools.
Right. Yeah, we have Brunton has kind of the line of Brunton has expanded and contracted through the years. What we now are we're focused on our core products, which are our compasses. But we do make compasses for geology, obviously, outdoor recreation,
Mm-hmm.
from pretty complex mirrored baseplate compasses to like super simple little things you can hang on your backpack just so you know which way north is. Um, but then we also have a long heritage of military compasses. The US military, like most militaries, prefers to source things within their own country,
Mm-hmm.
or at least have it be made by an ally. So um, Brunton's actually been under contract for various military types of compasses
Wow.
for over 100 years as well. Um,
Was and so,
yeah.
so those are tools that are actually then commissioned and used by the military.
Mhm.
Wow,
Yep.
incredible.
Yeah, and one of them, like the main one, is just like a green. It looks like a green conventional Brunton. It's called the M2,
Hmm.
but it's a mirrored pocket transit, just like David Brunton. He actually was the one who brought it to the U.S. military back in the 20s, like during World War One. He was working on military uses for it.
Wow.
Um, so yeah, surprisingly, it's still the most accurate, fast, and portable way to align a mortar, for example. So artillery teams use it because for a quick direction and angle and quick adjustments on that, it's more accurate than a digital device,
Wow.
um,
Okay.
and more reliable.
I would have not guessed that at all, but that's
Yeah.
amazing. VolcaKnowledge is proud to be sponsored by John Wainwright & Co. through Wainwright Aggregates and Brunton, Wyoming, making the world's most reliable compasses, professional transits and navigational tools. Since founding in 1891, John Wainwright & Co. are one of Southwest England's largest independent quarrying companies. As well as extracting and processing premium basalt from their quarry in Somerset, they produce construction materials and operate a successful contracting division. Let's hear from some of their employees.
I'm Ben Foyle. I am the Viatech Assistant Plant Manager. I run the day-to-day running of the plant to make sure everything is suitable for production and goes out according to schedule. Viafix is a cold-laid asphalt, which means when you put it together with water, it reacts and goes hard. You can use it on pathways, roads. It's not like normal asphalt which falls apart. This is reactive with water. I have also worked in the laboratory here at John Wainwright's for the last 10 years and enjoyed it immensely, and that has led me to move on to the Viafix plant and help them with their technical issues. We do our best to deliver a quality product for our customers, and that helps us to work with some quality production operatives that we do have here at Viafix at John Wainwright's. I think there's a good gap in the market for young talent to come through in this industry. I think it'll be well received.
And so with these tools, then, do you also have the opportunity to use them for, like, say, local public education? Because obviously, out where you are in Wyoming, you must have so many different, like, field schools or forest schools, nature camps, that kind of thing.
Yep. Yeah, we've gotten really involved, and it's growing this year by leaps and bounds, thanks to my team. Getting involved with Girl Scouts and the Scouting America,
Amazing.
Boy Scouts. We've done lots of donations to like hunter safety classes, and occasionally we get to go help too. But we're a small team.
Yeah.
It's hard to get out to every opportunity that we would love to be part of. But yeah, the scouting outlet is still that enduring. Like that's how to get map and compass skills into the youth of America.
Yeah. Yeah, because I remember as a kid myself, we not necessarily using those tools, but we did lots of orienteering
Yep.
Out in the wilderness. I always loved that. Although looking back now, to when that was 20, 23, 24 years ago, it was very much like parents just saying, here's a map. Those are the hills. Go and find these spots. We'll see you at tea time.
And then make it back.
Yeah. Try and make it back as well.
Oh, that's a great activity.
Yeah. Oh no, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we had a map and just one small compass. We didn't have anything like very, very high tech with us.
Nice. Yeah.
But I was going to say,
Well,
do you actually get the opportunity yourselves now to get out there in the field again? Because obviously you've taken quite a big switch from doing like a huge amount of field teaching and field classes to now, doing everything that you have to do to own and run a company.
Right. Yeah. Mostly it's now like spreadsheeting, call it heavy spreadsheeting. No, but every summer and sometimes beyond summer, but Wyoming is like there's dozens of field camps that come through Wyoming or are stationed here. One of which is like in our backyard in Lander, and it's it's the University of Missouri Field Camp in Sinks Canyon. It's been there since like 1911, so like deeply rooted field schools are here. So what we're trying to do every summer is at least get to spend a few days with camps like that in the field. This summer I got to visit them and University of Michigan at Camp Davis over by Jackson, two very long-running traditional field schools. Because the ironic thing is that I invented this but never got to teach with it because we moved up here to Wyoming and left the Fort Lewis teaching gig to launch this. So I've never gotten to actually teach like my own students with this. But getting to at least visit these field camps, I have like this kit of 12 or so that I leave with them with the understanding that I'll intercept them later at some point that summer. So right now Camp Davis has 12 of them. But yeah, getting to spend a day teaching them how to use the axis, wandering around in the field with them, catching up with them later in the field camp, see how it's going. I love getting that feedback of like what they thought of the axis versus their field school, issued conventional Bruntons.
Yeah.
So that's really edifying. I get to feel like a geologist for a few days a year.
Nice. So one moment I'm curious about, have you ever been back to the same boulder where you came up with your design?
Yes.
You have?
Yes.
With one of these in your hand?
Yes. Last year, and I was also leading a little course, so I didn't have the ability to also take pictures. But it's in Durango, still at that bouldering area. And last year, there was a meeting of the American Association of Professional Geologists in Durango, and I led a field workshop for young professionals out to that spot. And we visited the rock. It's hidden. It's not like a glorious rock. It's kind of a hidden surface. But
you know what happened at that surface.
I know. Yeah, I gave it a little pat and said hi to it.
Yeah, so, a quick little thanks. Fantastic. So there's such an importance of geological field tools, but there's the teaching and the study of geology has changed a lot over the years, and particularly now when there's a lot more technological advancement. You talked about GIS before, but now the ability for say drones in the field, what satellites can do nowadays, and we've kind of seen this shift, or almost an attempt to shift, to take geology more technological, in some cases almost away from those basic field skills. So I'm just kind of curious about what your thoughts are about, still trying to keep, geology rooted in those, but still having it accessible.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I enjoyed these conversations because a lot of people come up to the Brunton, for example, at GSA or EGU or other geology events and say, oh, you still make compasses. Do you have anything digital? Or like, oh, geologists still use these? Can't they just use their phones to take measurements? Like, I'm obviously aware that people can use iPads or their tablets or phones to take geological measurements, and also aware that like bigger technologies exist. Like you can use remote sensing to do quite a bit, but kind of two things. Like one is like the broader principle of what you take away from field education. Like we said before, we know that when we teach field camp, not all of those students are going to become geologists or become field geologists. Like not everyone gets to land the dream job of mapping with the government survey and or the state survey. But it's the deeper principles of problem solving and thinking on your feet and working with groups, working in conditions that aren't ideal, being confused for a while and figuring it out and pulling it together. Like those are really important life skills for a geologist and for anybody. And you don't get that through your other traditional courses. You also don't, and so just like a broader argument for field science and field education and field camps are that it's an unparalleled opportunity to bring those skills together. And again, you don't get that opportunity in your traditional classes. The other like technological and digital kind of digital versus analog argument is that like when you just hold a tablet or a phone up against a rock surface, you don't have to think about how you hold it up. You don't have to really think that much about the measurement. Yeah, it's kind of cool that it shows you the little symbol on the screen and you can visualize that. But when you just hold something up against the surface however you want and press a button and you assume it goes to your map and you move on, sure, that's more efficient, but is it accurate? And is it actually detracting from the science because you're not pausing to think about what you're doing? Like you might not actually understand what you're doing.
You're not the one physically taking that measurement in the end.
Yeah, you're not seeing that measurement, and you're making some assumptions and perhaps not pausing enough to double check. Like field science, especially field geology, yeah, you want to be efficient with your time, but it's not about speed. Like it's not a race to make a map or to collect your samples. Like you want to make sure you're doing it right because you might not ever get back to that spot. You got to make sure you get it right and you understand what you're doing. And I think just the assumption that a digital device is more accurate or just better than an analog device just because it's faster, I think is really dangerous for the science. Like we lose spatial understanding and we also might be losing accuracy because what's in your phone or tablet, if you're not calibrating that or checking it against an actual compass, you could be tens of degrees off.
And if that's the only tool you have in your arsenal when you're in the field, and we all know what happens to a battery, or when you suddenly drop that phone in the river that you're crossing.
Yeah. And I don't know about you. Like I've tried to fiddle with the digital devices. I've tried to learn them and learn how to map digitally. It is, and maybe this just shows my age. I'm not anti-technology, but the last thing I want to be doing when I'm in the field is looking at yet another screen. Like the joy of being in the field to me is like getting to sketch in a notebook and look at the outcrop and think about things, not be fiddling with yet another app or like messing with something that won't quite work on yet another technological device. That's just so.
As you say, if you're in the position where maybe you are out there doing it every single day and you have a lot of work to do, then maybe that area of efficiency can come into play. But maybe areas like maybe that we're more in, where you might only get a few days or maybe a week or two out in the field a year, you want to go back to those memories and also that person that you were back there. Like I still have all of my yellow Write in the Rains on my bookcase, and every so often I'll open them up and realize that I probably don't sketch like I used to. But
you kind of miss that chronicling of your career in a way. And you can do that digitally, but sketching is also like, it's similar to taking an analog measurement. Like, you can take a digital photo of an outcrop, but if you sketch it, that's a step further. You're interpreting, you're spending time with that outcrop.
Yeah.
We all know this. And yeah, you can take you can take a picture as well, obviously, but like sketching is a mental process, just like taking an analog measurement. Um, and I get it, if a structural geologist has to take thousands of measurements of something, um, I understand if you've properly calibrated your phone.
Yeah.
But the axis also, just a little plug for this, it takes measurements a lot faster than the other methods.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you know what you're doing with this, it's really quick also. Um,
Yeah, so you've inbuilt in some area of efficiency anyway.
yeah.
And it's the thing you see in almost scientific research papers. Lots of people use photos when they're in the field, but they'll
Mm-hmm.
still always come back to an interpretive sketch or schematic when they need to
Yeah.
explain properly what's going on. You
Yep.
can't use the photos of sometimes, a cruddy outcrop that's covered in
Yeah.
moss or lichen and all the surfaces. You just go, well, what even is that? You have to look inside.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
still having that skill to be able to do, as you say, the analog techniques is really, really important.
Yeah. Yeah. And I hope it's enduring. It's what we're seeing with the military as a side note is that they've come full circle, and I'm sure other militaries around the world are doing the same, where they've gotten too dependent on GPS and on digital devices, but conflicts bring to light, oh my gosh, yeah, like GPS can be scrambled
Mm-hmm.
in areas of conflict, and we can't, have a bunch of soldiers just wandering around lost. So they've doubled down on their land nav teaching and um, coursework, and using compasses like Brunton's to help every soldier know what they're doing out in the field.
Yeah.
And so I think those skills are really important for geologists as well, and for backpackers, and just everyone should at least know how
Yes.
to use the paper map and the analog compass and not be fully dependent on something digital, because you never know what could happen.
I definitely found that when I TA'd my first intro geology class, and because I'd grown up a lot, using a lot of maps and exploring the outdoors, and so there was probably
Yeah.
some naivety on my part as to what other people
Yeah.
grew up doing, and it was a big surprise of how many people had physically never seen, just ridge and valley lines and contour lines on a map before, and having to take that step backwards. So yeah, if there's ever a
Yeah.
plug to keep going those very basic field skills, not necessarily geological, but navigational field skills as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. So
Again, I could talk for days on this subject. So
so on that kind of note, then I guess, have you got, you've really come through all the routes in terms of field geology, from tools to actually teaching it and researching it. What kind of advice would you give to someone who's maybe at the current throes of beginning a geology of science career,
yeah.
environmental sciences career, maybe starting days of undergraduate?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think again, following what you enjoy is really important. Obviously, you have to put in hard work and learn things, and it's not about just having fun all the time, but finding work and finding things that you do enjoy. Like, I've always loved maps, and so I think that's why GIS wasn't a drag. I really enjoyed like doing map work on a computer, even though it wasn't out in the field. Um, Building up that toolkit, again, just
Yeah.
being as versatile as possible.
Metaphorical and physical.
Yeah, exactly. Um, and not forgetting about the basics either. Like, here at Brunton, we hire people based on their versatility and their willingness to adapt and learn, not based on what their degree says on paper.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think a lot of, like, yes, get a degree, but make yourself as versatile as possible. Have good communication skills, be able to write well, be able to, like, perhaps add to that toolkit by like knowing how to do Adobe Suite stuff, like being able to work with graphics, have basic graphic skills. Like, all of those are really important, because then you're a versatile person who can adapt and follow the job market, whether it's in and out of geology or well into academia. being versatile, I think, is my like current best advice.
There we go. Yep. So build.
Yeah.
I really like that idea of building up the tool, the tool belt, both metaphorical and physical in terms of skills. Well, I think it's a really nice, almost kind of like home point there as to what we take away from these different degrees and fields. But to kind of wrap things up, have you got a particular? I think we already touched on one particular memorable experience, which would be going back to that boulder. But do you have another one, a particular field memory?
I think to bring it home, since especially with a volcanic focus, the coolest field trip that I've ever gotten to do, and I was kind of co-leading this, but we went to the Big Island of Hawaii in 2014.
Yeah.
When Kilauea through the Pu'u'o'o vent was just flowing, like there was lava
Were these the
everywhere.
Pahoa lava flows?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
And so we no, it was actually before it was hitting
before
that town. It was
okay.
it was when it was further west. It wasn't hitting structures yet. It was still a little further west than that. But I won't throw anybody under the bus. It was again not my call because I wasn't leading the field trip. But there might have been some minor crossing of fence lines that perhaps should not have been crossed. Like we were definitely past the signs that say don't go here. But 2 times, different days, we got to go out and like be near active lava flows, just breakouts of this mafic lava that is hotter than you can ever imagine when you get close. Just the heat near your face, but getting to get close enough and dip your rock hammer in it. And so that rock hammer that my dad gave me when I was 10.
Oh, there we go.
The one I got to dip in that lava, and it, it's all rusted now because it wrecked the coating. But I still my rock hammer. I use it. We roasted hot dogs on the lava, and then final twist on this memory was that it started to rain right when we were close to the most active breakout. So, there's lava near our shoes, near our feet. It wasn't fast moving, but it was there. And when rain falls on a lava field, it became this steam whiteout.
Yeah.
Like we could not see our feet. We couldn't see each other. We couldn't see where we had exited the forest. So someone in our group had the wherewithal to take a compass bearing on that spot before it disappeared, in case we had to just blindly head in that direction.
We are building everything into this story that we have just talked about.
That was like the perfect moment of yes. Luckily it cleared and our feet did not get consumed by the lava breakout. But it was like one of those moments of this might become truly epic, with a bunch of students that were responsible for, but nobody got hurt.
Yeah.
Nobody was in jail. We were
that's always the difficulty when you're on the side of co-leading the trip and you go, as much as I'm enjoying this adventure, I'm also responsible for these people.
Yeah, I'm like gonna be the one to help carry these people out. So
but I think that's actually a commonality of just going out to Hawaiian lava flows anyway. My exact same first experience of hiking out to the Hawaii Kilauea lava flow field 2017, it was fine when we walked out, and then squall of weather came through and we had full steam whiteout.
Yeah, it's quite an experience, isn't it?
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you so much for sharing some of those memories, your journey, the variety of things that you can do with field tools and field teaching, but also to show people how you don't know what's going to happen, and that you should just, if it's, write that letter to the company. Who knows, you could end up owning and becoming the CEO of that company.
Just write the letter.
Yeah, just write. There we go. I think that can be our tagline for the episode. Just write the letter.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Lauren. And if people haven't already, they can certainly check out. Now you've got your t-shirt on. I've got my hat on. We've both got our Axis Transits in hand to check out Brunton compasses and all the other tools that they do. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in for this episode of VolcaKnowledge. Remember, you can catch all of our previous episodes either through our website, www.volcaknowledge.com, or you can follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you stream your favourite podcasts. You can also watch all of our episodes on our YouTube channel, VolcaKnowledge, and don't forget to sign up to our social media channels at VolcaKnowledge through Instagram and Blue Sky. Please leave us any feedback and comments and topics maybe you want to see on a future episode. Thank you for joining and see you next time.